Here's something you don't hear every day. Our microtransaction approach is harming RuneScape. It's time we took action. We have lost players to the way we approach microtransactions. We will see reduced revenue from microtransactions, and we have total support to take that hit. Yeah, you don't hear companies talk like that, but here they have. Those are the words of Jagex leadership, and yes, you did hear it right. That's the company behind RuneScape admitting in public that their crass, over-bloated, forceful monetization is literally not working for them anymore, that things cannot continue, that they need to change, and that it's apparently so much of a problem that they're willing to lose money to make that change. What you need to know, though, is that this story did not happen in a bubble. So here's the damage so far. The last drama was Jagex's January survey, which scared people, and the reason why was the risk of paywalled features and a $350 Canadian subscription. It all seemed insane. Now, Jagex executives tried to say that, hey, this is a research survey, we're not actually going to do anything in here, or everything in here, but then they essentially realized they had just sowed chaos, and they apologized for the whole thing. People were not exactly ready to just take their word for it and forgive them, because, well, this happened after 2023's very chaotic Hero Pass incident and retraction. There's late 2024's sub price increase to OSRS, and there is another little thing that could be driving all of this. So it all followed a change in ownership at Jagex. You see, in early 2024, they sold to venture capital firms for $1.1 billion. Now, the previous bunch bought them for $530 million, so essentially they doubled their money. The new group of owners perhaps would like to do the same. And that obviously would mean that Jagex would need to increase its value. It would need to make more money, which kind of makes this more bizarre, because with this latest change, RuneScape's devs are fully admitting that they're prepared to lose money. Here's the head of community and social for RuneScape. I want to be emphatic on this. We will see reduced revenue from MTX, and we have total support to take that hit. As Mod North said, the future of RS3's success should be based on the size, scale, and satisfaction of the players in our game. I do wonder what he means by the difference between size and scale. Does he just want a large quantity of very large players? Who knows? But anyway, what it does confirm is that these changes will cost the company money. In the short term, though. Obviously, they think this is the right business move in the long run, and it all comes from this, which is the future of MTX, our approach and your involvement. And essentially, it's a complete overhaul for monetization based on some utterly damning key facts. These key facts really matter. I'm sure you felt them in the games that you play. First, active users. 42% of players say MTX detracts from their experience, and 86% of those who do buy MTX are unhappy with the treasure hunters randomized rewards. So basically, the microtransactions and then the mechanics of them are making players unhappy. But where it gets interesting is here, because for lapsed players, 60% said the microtransactions detract from their experience, and 63% said they'd be more likely to return if the microtransaction issues were fixed. So with that, there's a very simple implication then, that everything monetization-wise has got to be rebuilt from the ground up, and I suppose built right. Now, Jagex say that players will be involved in every stage of this. Obviously, that could sound like fluff, but there is a very good incentive. They absolutely want to avoid another survey panic, like another drama. So they've said that there are going to be experiments. These will be live in-game for 1 to 14 days, so real players, real systems. They did give some examples as well. There was a mega drop of past cosmetics for direct purchase. Another was replacing treasure hunters' random rewards with fixed bundles, and they've even proposed a completely cosmetic-free world based on player feedback. Which, I mean, man, if Call of Duty was to offer me like cosmetic free as an option, I could actually sort of enjoy the vibes of that series again. I obviously can't now, just look at the damn thing. The plan here, though, is that these experiments will prove whether Jagex understands its player base or not. And not just what they'll spend on, but how they'll actually feel about those changes. And that's the key thing here, because sure, Jagex can get a surge of cash, but what they really need, right, is the emotional buy-in. They need that of players in order to be successful in the long run. Because in this game, it's about lifetime value of a customer. And perhaps, right, and this is shocking, but perhaps if you don't try to like gut your customer, make some human foie gras out of them and kill them, then maybe they'll stick with you longer and give you slow money instead of fast money. Going back to the blog though, Jagex clearly know that they've failed at the emotional buy-in side of things. They actually said that their past moves were, quote, false starts. Yeah, they certainly were that, and probably a few other things. So basically this time what they're doing is they're setting clear commitments split into two different ways, what they will do and then what they will not do. So first, they will clearly communicate context of all decisions. Second, they'll think about all types of player. And third, they will address existing monetization. As for what they won't do, which is very important for game monetization, they won't offer new XP outside of gameplay, so very good, right? People will be worried about pay to win, and they won't launch changes straight to the final game, and they won't stop community engagement. And you know what? That's all very good. That's all very noble, as is the promise that none of this will affect core development resources for the game. And it's not just noble. Choosing less money now for more money later is, just sane, wise, sustainable. But as we'll see, there may be more to this decision than meets the eyes, because what this is all actually part of is Jagex's trend of fucking massive business changes over the last few months. Okay, Jagex's weird year. So first, you've got their big success, which is Runescape Dragon Wilds. Essentially, it's a standalone Valheim-style survival game that they shadow dropped in April. It exploded, and the dev team was basically unprepared for the magnitude of its success, so they're now playing catch-up, not in sort of a bad way, just holy shit, our game really exploded. So that's good news. And actually, it sold so well that they're able to hire more developers. Again, also good news. But it's not everything. Other stuff is going on. And that's because they're one of the few parts of Jagex that are actually getting that freedom. You see, elsewhere, there's a lot of change. One big thing over all of this is the 14-year-old veteran CEO Phil Mansell was replaced by John Bellamy. And this move really matters because we'll be talking about his words shortly. And what you need to know is that his executive career started off at Jagex, but then he went to mobile game companies. So on the bright side, he's got Jagex DNA, but the mobile game experience, especially in the context of like RuneScape and what they were doing to it, obviously is a bad look. People would perhaps think that, oh, he was good at mobile games and now they want him to mobile game my RuneScape. Oh dear. Turns out, though, he's self-aware, at least in how he is doing his spin in this, because basically he said that his mobile experience teaches him that mobile monetization is, quote, completely incompatible with RuneScape. That sounds nice, and I'm sure we all agree with it, but we do have to think about timing. So he was made CEO March 2025. And that would sort of suggest that this, the bad stuff, the dramas, didn't happen under his tenure. However, he was on the board since 2024, so he did have visibility into when the company was moving in a direction that obviously got them, quite a few less fans. Anyway, let's move on to what he did as CEO. Obviously, there's the Dragon Wilds stuff and some of the decision-making afterwards, but he then became the face of bad PR because of layoffs. Are happening everywhere, and they were ones in, quote, non-game dev and non-player facing areas, though this included community managers and ops staff. People were obviously not happy about that, and that's not the only type of cuts that were done. Another thing, Project Zenaris was paused. Now, it was a September 2024 initiative where a separate dev team got free rein to respond to player demands in OSRS, and that was starting with private customizable servers. I'm sure people would have loved that, but well, now it's cancelled, and the reason is it just would take too long to deliver it at the right quality, so they say, and their justification is it's better to make new content right now. But only some content, because there was then another little drama where employees then leaked that this new CEO, John, had told them to cancel new in-game Pride events. Now for this, the initial justification that he reportedly gave to the team was that he just wanted to let staff focus on content that players wanted. So not just doing an event, but actually focusing on core game content. But then staff basically said, okay, we understand that, but new content is nearly done. How about we finish the Pride event stuff outside of work hours? So basically the employees saying, don't worry, you will get your content. We will do this also, and we'll even do it for free. Well, whenever they said that, the company rationale then changed, and it changed to protecting the business from controversy. And then very shortly after, a third rationale emerged, that staff's eagerness to finish their work was evidence that RuneScape became, quote, an outlet for their own views, which management disagreed with. And what got a lot of people, what felt off or sus, I suppose, was that they changed their rationale to staff so many different times, and to a lot of people that just feels like beating around the bush and wanting to make a call, but not actually just giving the honest explanation for the call you're going to make. So you then just sort of do little white lie versions of it, and that perhaps explains the shifting rationalizations. Now, taking all of this in context, a lot of people thought, well, UK-based Jagex probably bowing to US political pressure on its shareholders, but there is actually a wider problem, and that problem is one of a different kind of pressure. Because at the end of the day, we know what all of this is actually about. It's about money. Well, if you ever wanted evidence that microtransactions can backfire pretty badly, this is going to be it. The data we had for December 2022 essentially showed 7 years of growth and profit, which obviously made them a real good contender for a new investor. Now, their 2023 data is actually no different when you take a look at it. Revenue's up 10%, profit increased $1 million, even as their costs surged. So that all looks quite good. But 2024, it is a different story. Per the latest accounts filed, their revenue was 400 grand less than in 2023. Their profits dropped from 39 million to 27 million, so quite a large drop, though their costs did actually get reduced by about 1 million. But the point, though, is they didn't take in more money. Their revenue was going down, and that's a worrying thing. Now, when they break it down, it turns out that they were getting more money from their subscriptions. 78% of revenue was generated from them, and that was actually up 4% from 2023 in pure revenue terms. Obviously, price adjustments and stuff, and it was also up by 200,000 players. So that all does look pretty good. But actually, it's just a plaster on the losses. The losses being 5 million lost in microtransactions, 2 million lost in premium revenue. Now that's all a bit rough, and it probably explains the Pipeworks sale, because either John accidentally Googled Pipeworks and wondered why he actually was CEO of Scotland's best and largest gay sauna club, or just looked across the pond and realized he didn't actually want to pay for a 200-person development studio in Oregon. Probably the latter. Basically, this company Pipeworks had been a Jagex subsidiary for 3 years at that point, but then, they were sold. Now, I want you to think about that in the context of all of those changes, right? Subscriptions have always been the biggest revenue source, and they're only growing. Microtransaction revenue is down. Players are just not buying them. And not only that, Jagex's data is now showing them that players are actively choosing not to return because of microtransactions. So, of course, Jagex decided that they can afford to lose microtransaction revenue. It's not really as purely noble as it looks like in their announcement, because they're already losing. Of course they can lose more as they try to rectify the problem. Still, I do like the sentiment. And it's also pretty much the same for premium revenue, where just the most dedicated players are seemingly not interested. And all of this puts the subscription model survey and the recent changes in a pretty damn stark contrast. Because what we see is the Jagex aren't just trying out some new ideas, they are fundamentally changing their focus as a business. How could it go? What will it mean? And what lessons can we learn here? Well, a better core offering means more players. And if they're encountering less friction from constant microtransaction demands, then maybe they'll be more likely to stick around. They'll actually be happy. And of course, that would let the subscription side of the business grow unhindered from all that negative sentiment. And perhaps with time, maybe their microtransaction revenue could grow up again in a healthy way. But basically, they want a world where players are spending money because they want to, not because the game makes them feel pressured to. And all that happening in the context of current microtransactions failing while subscriptions stay healthy. Putting it all together, it paints a picture of a company that doesn't actually have that many options. Essentially, a company with exactly one growing revenue stream, with limited flexibility and development resources, and a fearful attitude towards any form of further controversy. I think that's why we're seeing this, and I think it's almost certainly a good thing for RuneScape players, at least assuming this is not a monkey paw situation. You see, actually paying for something is good. We've been habituated to playing a game where the game is just a live service thingy that we're supposed to be in, so that we're then upsold loads and loads of stuff inside. In a world where something feels more like an a la carte subscription, well, I think of a quote from Charlie Munger that I mentioned a few days ago, right? Show me the, whatever it is, show me the incentive and I'll tell you the outcome. In this situation, if subscription revenue is the thing that they're measuring, the thing that they want to go up, then they are actually aligning their incentives with the average player base, because if you think about the diffusion of money within their player base, if everyone is paying a sub, then it's pretty much one level playing field. That would mean you're incentivized to grow the player base, and maybe eventually to increase your sub price. Now, the damaging thing is that if you then start doing loads of microtransactions that are highly targeting a small part of your player base, then in order to make that number go up, what will you do? You will do more things to sell to those players. And so you then end up with a lot of your financial returns are from a smaller cluster of your player base. And that then means that your business model starts to cater towards getting money out of them, rather than getting money out of everyone pretty much equally. And that is one of the core reasons why I actually do like the idea of a subscription service, even though obviously people don't like paying for things, and if something is free, that certainly makes it easy to start. What's core here though is the old way was not working, the numbers prove it, and we must wonder to ourselves how many other games in the industry are like this, where the microtransactions have done damage. Perhaps we even need to wonder how many people have just left gaming to other forms of entertainment. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the industry drove people away, and it seems that game sales are just struggling for growth. I'll leave those questions with you, but if you want some more content, I've got a hell of a story for you of two companies breaking Steam's rules. It's so flagrant that, well, it makes for quite the chat, and you can watch it next.